From Nutrien Ag Solutions, I'm Senior Meteorologist Andrew Pritchard with your Canadian Prairie weather story for Wednesday, November 27th, 2024. First of all, I want to apologize for the lack of the Canadian Prairie updates for the last few weeks. It was not my intention. I had a planned vacation here for the last few weeks that I forgot to mention in my last video. I mentioned I was recording with a poor microphone at the beginning of the last update. Also left out, that was because we had just moved into our brand new office here just south of Champaign, Illinois, the Champaign Innovation Farm, where the weather team is going to be working going forward. So it was an exciting day, and I was excited to get away for a little bit. My wife and I actually went to Steamboat Springs, Colorado. This is where we honeymooned in 2016. It's right there in the central Rockies and kind of northern Colorado there in Routt County. We just happened to go there by chance on our honeymoon. We fell in love with the area. Now we go back every year or two. This was the first time we went back during the winter. I know it's early winter, but the first time that there was snow on the ground there, this is as we were, coming into the Rockies there. Here we are on the left there. That's 2016 on our honeymoon. We went in June. So in the summer when the snow was melting, we had the wildflowers blooming. Beautiful time to be there. Obvious why we fell in love with it. And then on the right, that's a photo that we took there just last week when we were there in the mountains up on one of the trails there. But got to experience some really cool mountain winter weather as we came in there. There was a cool lenticular and standing wave there over the Rocky Mountains. That was really cool to see. And then one of the days there, we got some of these really cool snow squalls. So my wife was patient with me, let me go out chasing these snow squalls for the afternoon on Saturday. Went out there, got some really cool, heavy bursts of snow, went and rode one of those out on top of a mountain. So I was in kind of blizzard conditions and 50-mile-an-hour winds, just loving it, stimulating weather for this meteorologist. So I am back. I'm going to continue to produce these videos every week. I just forgot to tell you there wasn't going to be any for the middle of November there. But let's dive in. While I was away, winter arrived. You got temperatures anywhere from like 15 to 20 degrees below zero here this morning. We got flurries that are going to be going on through the weekend. Not any real heavy snow to talk about over the next couple of days at least. But this pattern stays amplified through the month of December. And I do think there's going to be some periods here. We're going to get hit with some doses of wintry precipitation across the prairie. So let's kind of dive into it. Let's get started with the infrared satellite picture here as we get started on Wednesday morning. A couple things to point out. A big area of low pressure kind of wrapping up here across the Hudson Bay. This moved through over the last couple of days. This is kind of one of the first catalysts here to this big pattern change. We've got very fast flow in the jet stream coming in across the central U.S. It's going to continue to wrap up here in this area of low pressure. And then we've got, you see the purple shading here that's not moving. That's very cold air. That's that snowpack that's starting to build in parts of the prairie. We got a little swirl here coming in across the prairie. It might bring some flurries, but this also comes in. This brings a reinforcing shot of some cold air across the northern plains of the U.S. and just aids in kind of wrapping this pattern up. Big ridge west, trough east. It's been a while since we saw a December pattern get locked in like this, and we'll talk about what that means. Right now, it means a lot of cold. Again, 15 to 20 degrees below zero this morning across the prairie. And indeed, we do have some flurries anywhere from Saskatoon down to Regina. These will be moving into southern portions of Manitoba as we head through the day. Again, maybe some isolated slick spots, but not really a heavy dose of winter precip today. At the last 30 days, again, we've seen a couple of systems that wrapped up into the prairie and brought some early doses of accumulating snow while I was away. Heaviest precipitation across parts of Manitoba, and then as you get into kind of central portions of Saskatchewan, Saskatoon, down to Regina, and then some pockets of heavier precipitation along the Front Range, Calgary, up into the Peace River area. Snow cover right now, anywhere from, a trace to a couple of inches down near the U.S.-Canadian border. Again, you get up toward the Saskatoon area. That's where you got anywhere from, 8 to 12, maybe some higher amounts in that area. And then same true as you get over toward Calgary, some of the Front Range there, some pockets of heavier snow as well. As we look at the next 7 days, again, generally light precipitation. We'll talk about how this is going to be happening, much of it falling in the form of light snow, but we kind of ramp up as we head into the first few days of December, I think. Now, this is the pattern. Here's what we got. 500 millibars. Again, the boundary here where you got this blue shading, upper level low pressure kind of developing. We've got several pieces here. This first one, 1, 2, 3, 4 different upper level waves that are going to be kind of, combining to create this big storm. Well, it sounds dramatic, but that is kind of what we've got going on. We've got all of these pieces coming in, very fast jet stream flow between the developing upper level low, all of these different little disturbances, and then higher atmospheric pressure down here across Mexico. So what happens is the next few days, we transition into a pattern that features a deep upper level low across the Great Lakes, the Hudson Bay area just south of there, and a developing ridge from the western U.S. up into British Columbia. So here's what we've got. This is the weekend. Let's take it into the first couple days of December, and this is when we really get this classic, highly amplified ridge west, trough east pattern. So jet stream flow at this point, as we get into next week, comes in over the top of the ridge and then dives in across the prairie. So the jet stream will be screaming from northwest to southeast across the Canadian prairie, and we'll talk about what that means here. Again, initially, flurries for the weekend. A couple pockets of maybe a light additional coating of snow, but generally light snow as we talk about the next few days. Let's look at what we've got then as we head a little bit further into the first few days of December. So let's bring it all the way back. Here's your Wednesday, November 27th. This is what we got here Thursday. Again, you see the light flurries coming in with this northwesterly flow across the region. This is your Friday morning. This is now your Saturday morning. Again, flurries across the area, light snow Saturday night. Getting into Sunday, a lot of snowflakes flying, but no real pockets of heavy accumulation. This is your Monday, really the same pattern continuing here. It's as we get into kind of Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you're going to start to see some more well-defined areas of low pressure kind of riding over that ridge to the west and then wrapping around the trough to the east. So here we go. This is now getting into Tuesday or Wednesday next week. Of course, we'll talk next Wednesday, December 4th. So we'll be able to kind of address maybe a ramp up in the pattern as we head into the last part of next week and early next weekend. You just kind of see as I rock back and forth. This is that December 3rd through the 6th time frame, maybe more in the way of consequential snow flurries instead of these inconsequential snow flurries, as I call them, what we've got over the next 3 to 4 days. Now here's the jet stream winds. I told you, racing across the U.S. Here's that other little system, this other little burst of jet stream winds is going to come in and kind of reinforce the pattern. You watch that dive in across the prairie. That's what's kind of the catalyst for these flurries across the region right now. A little bit of upper level support, squeezing some of the very sparse moisture out of this Arctic air mass. It is hard to get heavy snow out of very cold, dry air, but we're doing so with some of this flow. You see it continue to just kind of wrap up here as we get into, this is Saturday, November 30th, getting into December 1st, December 2nd. This is what we kind of complete the transition into this pattern where now we've got the very fast flow coming around the base of this trough, and now we've just got disturbances riding over the top of the ridge to the west, diving in across the prairie. So I think this is when the pattern may turn a little bit more active as far as disruptive precipitation events across the prairie. Right now it's going to be just really cold with some flurries. You can see that here with the moisture content. This is precipitable water. You can see a lot of, let me jump back here, dry air kind of coming in. Hold on now. Hold your horses. We'll get to the snow cover forecast. See the dry air coming in here. Pacific moisture kind of held at bay until, here we go, getting into next week. You start to see some of that being lobbed over the Rockies, over the ridge, diving in across the prairie. This is when I think we'll turn it up as far as more active precipitation goes. So it follows, then we look at the next 7 days, not a lot. You can kind of see the flurries riding over the top of the ridge early on, very heavy snow across parts of British Columbia, and then maybe the Prairie River area picking up some heavier snow, especially as we get over to the weekend, early next week. Areas north of Highway 16, Edmonton, you might pick up some snow. Saskatoon down to Regina, a decent chance of maybe picking up a little snow early next week. But then as I add in the first week of December, you really start to see the pattern emerge. You can see that streak of snow as systems ride over the top of the ridge and dive in across the prairie. We'll have to really kind of watch where this corridor actually sets up. North or southward adjustments make a huge difference. Right now, I would say best chance for heavy snow in early December is going to be further east across Manitoba, parts of Saskatchewan, maybe a higher chance. Portions of southern Alberta are rain shadowed, and then you head further north into central and northern Alberta. You get some of that heavier snow, but we'll watch this. We'll talk about it as we get to next Wednesday morning, our next Canadian Prairie update. We'll probably have some more specifics there, but flurries over the next 4 to 5 days, but heads up, early December might be a bit bumpy in some areas here across the prairie. Might be watching for a corridor or two of more significant snow. Again, with this pattern, this is one that, as I kind of was looking back, when was the last time we saw a December pattern like this? It was 2017, the last time we saw this highly amplified ridge west, trough east pattern. And again, that is one that it brings in shots of Arctic air, and it at times, if we get the right alignment, can be quite active with routine doses of snow across the region. We see that when we look at the long range forecast for the month of December, again from the European extended model. You look at the Canadian Prairie down into the northern high plains is really one of the most active areas across North America. We could see some rain and thunderstorm activity across the Gulf Coast, but really across the western U.S. into much of the central and eastern United States, this is a pretty dry pattern for the month of December. So buckle up across the prairie. I think it may be a active December with some cold air and some chances for some snow. We'll look at the temperature forecast here just as we wrap this up. Coldest in the east, chances for some moderation at times in the west. Calgary, you may see those temperatures quite volatile at times as maybe the influence of that ridge begins to allow some modification with those temperatures. But in general, we're going to keep the shots of cooler air. And by cool, I mean cold, coming out of the north and then diving in across the prairie on their way into the Midwest. So thank you for that. You are sending your air down to me as well. I will definitely be joining you in the winter vibes over the next 15 to 30 days as we head into a pretty cold looking December. So Calgary, your next 5 days are really cold. You got those flurries, highs around -10. You see some modification, a warming trend early next week, warming back up to around the freezing mark. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see another shot of cold air that comes in there on the off screen to the right, heading deeper on into December. Edmonton, very similar look. Saskatoon, here you go in Regina, not even getting back to the freezing mark as we get into early next week. Again, coldest in the east, a little bit more mild in the west. Winnipeg, same look. Bitterly cold over the next 5 to 6 days. A little bit of a modification, moderation, whatever word you want to throw in there as we get into early next week. But still, those highs around -5. Overnight lows, -10 to -15. Winter is here. I am glad to be back. We'll talk to you again a little bit more about this next week.